Hey guys, I'm super excited to share with you today. I'm gonna be speaking on a subject I'll call origins. I find it's very important in order for us to understand what we are, what is man, because unless we really have a true understanding of ourselves, we don't know where we're going and what we're living for. So I love to take you back to the beginning, to the first man that was created. And the first man that was created was Adam. God created him from the dust and he formed his body, and then he breathed in his nostrils, he breathed into him his spirit, his breath. And it says man became a living soul. So there are three elements here. First is the body, which is formed from the dust like an earthen vessel, like a mud house. And then the part of us that's alive is that germ, is his spirit in us. And it says man became a living soul. And the soul is our will, our intellect, our conscience. That is our will. That is our soul. And whatever we experience in life, everything we perceive, the choices we make, our experience, we experience in our soul. But man is not really and truly the soul. Those are just our feelings. That is only how we experience life. And man is not really the body because it's just the shell. But the living part of us is the spirit. So it's very important. You see, the story progresses when God created Adam and Eve. And then later, and it's also important to understand that God is spirit. It says God is spirit. And the way we can communicate with him is when we come to him as he is through our spirit. And it's also important to know that the devil is also a spirit. And spirits have to find expression through a body. So the same way your spirit finds expression through this body that you were put in, that you live in. But there are also other spirits that don't have fixed bodies, and they still have to look for expression through another person's body. So we find here the devil comes to man through the body of a snake to communicate to man. And from the day that man listened to the voice of the devil, the evil one, he died. The day he listened to the voice of the enemy, he died. And death came into the world. Though God had created man to live forever. And God used to have a relationship with man. But from then, man lost relationship with God. Until the time that Jesus would come, who was God in the flesh. God put on flesh to redeem and to save mankind who has fallen. Jesus, it says about him, he spoken about as the second Adam. But the first man was a natural man. But he says, but Jesus was a life-giving spirit. So in the same way, when we're born in the natural way, as natural man, after the first man Adam, who we come from. But Jesus came in the world so that we can be born again. But this time we're born again after the Spirit. When we receive his Spirit, he gives life to our spirit. When the same way when man listened to the voice of the devil, he received death. But this time his Spirit will give us life. This is why Jesus rose from the dead, to show you that he has power over death. So when we receive his Spirit, he is able to quicken, to make alive our spirits inside us. He says, man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. When we listen to his word, it gives us life. He is the tree of life. So there's a war within us. The enemy, the evil one, is always trying to speak into our lives, to speak lies into our lives. Even though I would have expected that when Jesus died on the cross and defeated the devil, he says the prince of this world has already been judged. I would have thought that his defeat would mean the world would already be different. But the devil remains in the world. deceiving people, and the only power he has is that power of deception, is through the lies. The only way he has power over our lives is when we believe his lies. But when we choose to believe God's voice, we overcome him. It says, greater is he that is in you than the one that is in the world. Because when you receive God's spirit, he abides within you. But the devil is still out there in the world. And so many times, the devil is looking for expression. Sometimes he finds expression through other people. People can say hurtful things to you, not knowing that they're being used by the evil one, not knowing. And I want to say this, particularly if anybody struggles with depression and anxiety. I believe that it is perhaps because you're more sensitive to the things of the spirit. You ever see this when people are struggling with depression and anxiety, people are suicidal, they hear voices, and so they're listening to all the wrong voices. But I want to say this, and it's important, because it says greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. When you've received God's spirit, it is much greater and much stronger than the voice of the evil one. No matter what people say to you, no matter what whispers people say, God is still greater. Somebody painted this picture of a man who's sitting at a table playing chess, and he's playing chess against the devil. But the devil is a grand champion. He's been alive for many thousands and thousands of years, and you're novice, you're beginner level, you're amateur. It seems unfair, but there's something else in this painting. Jesus Christ himself is standing right next to you, and he's whispering in your ear, and he's giving you advice. He's telling you which move to make next. And there's only one other person who's better than the devil, and it's Jesus Christ. He's the one who defeated him already. He is, if the devil is the grand champion, Jesus is the grand champion. He is the overall champion. He is the champion of champions. And imagine he is the one in your ear. How can you lose? How can you possibly lose? As long as you listen to his advice and you follow him, you will be victorious. He says, whoever is born of God overcomes the world, overcomes the evil one. This verse really interested me, because sometimes I feel overcome. Sometimes I fail. And then I wonder and I ask myself, does it mean that I'm not born again? I'm not born of God. Maybe I've not really been born of God. But when I continue to read, I understand that it's not the case. That's not the case at all. But the point is that I need to know who I am in God. I can either live as the natural person, or I can live as the child of God. It's like being adopted into a family. As long as I don't know that I'm now truly a child in that family, I'm fully accepted. I'm treated as any other child in this family. As long as I don't believe this, my life is going to be dysfunctional. As long as I don't really trust that, I'll live in fear. I'll live as an orphan, always in fear that the ground beneath me can disappear at any time. I'll always not trust that I'm fully loved, that if I make a mistake, I can be thrown out, abandoned. But the more that I embrace and know this truth, that I am a child and God treats me even as his only beloved son, then I'll walk in victory. Then I'll walk in confidence. I have the right frame of mind, and I'll experience freedom, and I can fully trust, and I'm fully confident. Then I can walk over serpents and scorpions. All the lies of the enemies become nothing. They don't have power over my life. There's also something I wanted to say that's very important, because religion isn't the answer. Religion is like trusting in knowledge. There's not enough amount of knowledge that can bring change to one's heart. I see this. I can give an example. Every day I see people take out a packet of tobacco or cigarettes, and right there on the box it tells you, it's written in bold letters, that smoking kills. There's even a picture of death, of what can happen to you. Yet somebody will proceed to open this box, roll up a cigarette and smoke it. I'm not saying this to condemn anyone or point to anyone, because I do the same thing in so many other ways in my personal life. To show you, but the point I'm making is to show you that there's not enough amount of knowledge that can transform your life. The law cannot save you, but I want to say the Spirit of God can give life. The Spirit of God can give life. When you receive that Spirit that is from God, when you start listening to His voice, it gives you life. It brings transformation in your life. It is His love in your heart. It makes you alive again. It brings alive your faith. That which is dead in you, it brings alive. The Bible says it that way, that the letter killeth, but the Spirit gives life. So what we need is more of His Spirit in us. When Jesus was baptized, as a picture, when Jesus was baptized, and it said the Spirit descended as a dove from heaven and rested on Him. It remained on Him, and there was a voice from heaven say, "This is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased." And this is amazing, because it's for me that accompanying voice is when the Spirit comes. His voice speaks into your life. It defines you. It gives you identity. It speaks into your identity, who you really are. It speaks to you. It tells you who you really are in God. While all your life you've been seeking out for meaning and to know who you are. But when you know, you experience freedom and power. Because after that, Jesus goes into the wilderness to fast, and he's tempted by the devil, and he overcomes him because he's filled with the Spirit, because the Spirit of God rests on him. And Jesus did this to show us an example of what it is when we receive His Spirit and what we can achieve, what we couldn't do before, because we now have His Spirit. And when Jesus comes back from being tested, He comes back in the power of the Spirit. He now has power over the devil. Wherever he goes, all these spirits that were oppressing people are exposed, and he can command these spirits to leave so that people can experience the freedom that God intends for them. And it's so powerful what a child of God can do, the one born of God. Because Jesus said it. He said, "He who the Son sets free is free indeed." He says a servant has no permanent residence in the family, but a son has. So you fully become a son now, and you pass that test. You know that you are loved by God. If you are, and this is what the devil kept trying to test him at that place, saying, if you're a child of God, if you are the Son of God, turn the stone into bread. And Jesus knew he didn't have to prove himself to the devil. He didn't need, he was okay. He trusted in his Father's love. He didn't have to make a point. And the devil found no fault. He overcame him. And from that day on, the devil was on the run. Wherever Jesus went, demons had to leave. Can you imagine that? You say, who the Son sets free is free indeed. Oh, what love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called the children of God. It's so powerful because it's easy with the Spirit of God. It says, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit. There are things that our strength cannot achieve, but His Spirit can. His Spirit can move anything. His Spirit makes us more than conquerors. His Spirit can raise the dead. His Spirit can give life. So we need more of His Spirit to be victorious in life. I hope you're blessed, guys. Thank you.